Today we're going to talk about
growing with fishes. Growing with fishes.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. I'm Steve, your host with Ponics, and this is the Growing with Fishes podcast. Today we have Josh Rutherford talking to us about the Regenerative conference and a whole bunch of other awesome things. We got the Aquaponic conference this weekend and all kinds of good stuff going on. So we have some cool things to announce about the conference today and some other awesome stuff. So thanks everybody for joining us. How's it going there, Marty?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Going well.
Good to see you both. Josh?
Good to see you too, man. How you doing?
Going, Josh?
Looks like you got a fancy light up disco party rig over there.
Oh yeah. I've had this for a while now. This is my Dr. Dabber.
Dr.
One of
Dabber.
the few vaporizers that you can smoke flower out of. So
Nice. I got a Puffco, a new version of the Puffco, and it actually has a party mode that you can put it on and it'll do a dance. And
yeah, mine does too. I don't remember exactly how it works, but it does like a bunch of different light modes and has like a mode, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. But it's called the Dr. Dabber Switch, and you can use it for dabs or for flower. And
that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's an induction vape, so it like right now it's totally cool, like not hot at all.
Oh, okay.
And then when you turn it on, it heats up a couple seconds, and then it's good to go.
That's nice. You get the rig off the side too. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like it. It's been good to me.
And for those of you that are somehow listen to this show and are not yet aware, which I find hard to believe, but it might be possible, be sure to check out the second annual virtual Aquaponic Cannabis Conference this weekend. We have people from all over the world: Canada, South Africa, Sweden, Switzerland, and other countries that don't start with S, Colombia, and all kinds of other places, Australia, and all over the United States, as well as London, a guy from the UK as well. So we're going to have a really awesome panel of commercial growers on Saturday. We have a panel of home growers and craft growers on Sunday. Josh actually will be speaking with on Sunday as well, our guest tonight. And if you didn't check out last year's, you can also check that out as well. And we have a whole playlist of last year's conference, and I think you guys will really enjoy as well if you happen to not check that out. And but this year we have a really awesome lineup. We have double the number of speakers of last year, and from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. each day this weekend, you can find amazing cannabis information for aquaponic and living soil growing. So definitely check that out. And then Marty and I also have the, hold on, forgot to pull this one up, so I do apologize. We also have our class over at apmjclass.com. Oh, no, that didn't come up. Oh, now it's coming up different. But you can check it out here. There we go. We have a full lineup of classes. We actually taught an in-person class at Josh's farm as well. So definitely, we do all different types of different versions of the class, but we have filmed a lot of different portions of the class and put them up in different segments online and broken down so you can take them by topic at whatever time works for you. And we have all different types of amazing content from farm tours to pest management guides, dosing guides, nutrient guides, all kinds of different topics, over 700 different slides and different talks on different things. So and growing each month with 2 live sessions each month as well. So definitely check that out. And if you sign up, even if you just go and sign up this weekend, from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to pick a winner from anyone that signs up with their email. And we're going to be giving away an SK403 from Spectrum King, a free copy of the commercial aquaponics cannabis class, and a full line of nutrients from truenutrients.com for up to 300 gallons of system. So if you have an IBC system, you'll have a nice 400 watt 403 light to set up for your cannabis plants, and the nutrients and the education you need to get started in your grow. So that'll be the prize. We'll be giving that away at the end of the conference on Sunday, and we'll be picking up the entries from those who enter their email through the sign up on ap420.com or apmjclass.com. All you have to do is sign up for free. It doesn't cost you a dime. You just have to put in your email, and from there we'll pick a winner. All right, Josh, thanks for joining us tonight. I know you've had a lot of awesome, exciting announcements about your conference this week. You finally put your tickets on sale and stuff. Why don't you tell everybody what you've been up to? Because you've been a busy bee.
Not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. That's what people do when they say that. How do you mind if I simulcast this on Instagram?
Sure.
Cool. I already started.
Great. I have been the whole time. Forced consent. No.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So for the Instagram folks, I thought I'd pop you guys in on the conversation and get some more folks in. But thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm like a resident guest maybe on the show.
Yeah. Panelist at this point.
Residency.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I don't think we're keeping score, but we're definitely Josh.
But yeah, it's been a busy couple weeks. Dropping the 2022 conference, Regenerative Organic Cannabis Cultivation Conference. I actually had a little trouble with getting website stuff going. I was hoping to launch it on the first ticket sales, but we were able to finally get it going on the 7th. But it's good because I've having website issues means I'm building out a better website rather than in the past I was relying on like event space and these other things that are really nice tools, but I can have a lot more control and in the system this way. And so yeah, it's wild. I've been talking to folks in California all week. And this is the 4th conference. This will be the 2022 will be the 4th conference that I've done in Humboldt, which is pretty amazing and pretty cool. And yeah, I never thought I would be doing something like that, but I'm very proud and very stoked to be a part of doing it. So yeah, we got a pretty good lineup. It's we're going to be, we got 4 tours on the 4 spots on the tour. We go to Humboldt the last weekend of January, and we're in Garberville at the Richardson Grove RV Park. Everyone's staying at the historic Benbow Inn, which is pretty much like I described like a castle in the middle of the mountains in Northern California. It's really cool. They're super cool to us. They're giving us 30% discount for everybody that comes and says they're part of the Regen conference, which is really, really kind of them. And then the next stop is in Michigan at Grow Greens MI at their grow store, which is a really awesome, huge grow store in Whitmore Lake, Michigan. And that's the last weekend of February. And then we go on from there to Portland, Maine, just north of Portland in Dresden at Nature's Summit, which is a family farm, a really beautiful cannabis and vegetable family farm. We have a barn there. Folks can camp on site. We're going to bring food trucks, I think, and it's just going to be a really cool, intimate experience. And then the last stop is to be determined the exact venue, but it'll be in Oklahoma City, somewhere in the vicinity where everyone's kind of been moving to, where you're at, Steve. And I've been talking with you. I've been talking with Brandon Russ, and I'm not feeling pressed to lock down the location right now. I'm working on these other ones, but it will be in Oklahoma City. There's lots available from what I've gathered from folks. It's not going to be a problem. So I'm really stoked. We got some folks that have been on tour before that are coming back, and some folks that started out that are coming back, which is really exciting. So Steve, you've been with us every step of the way, except, well, I guess you missed Humboldt in 2020 because you were in South Africa.
Every year I've been in the US, I've been there.
Yeah, and Suzanne Wainwright Evans, the bug lady, she'll be there. Chris Trump, Korean natural farmer, he'll be there. The soil steward on Instagram. Kevin Jodry will be there on Sunday. And then we'll bring him back Joshua Steensland, which I'm really excited about. He was there at the very first conference in Portland, which was prior to the Humboldt conference. A lot of folks may not have known about that one, but the first one we did was in Portland, where I used to live, actually right above the bar where I used to hang out. And
he was in Vancouver too, because I remember him.
Oh, that's right. He was in Vancouver. I forgot about that. Yeah, right. Briefly, he was in Vancouver with us as well. So he came back the next year. And he's just a guy I totally respect. He just continues to dig deeper into the knowledge of cultivating, dig deeper into the soil food web, and he's not a guy that I see taking something, just taking it for fact from what someone says. It's like, even if he's going to learn about it from Elaine or some, I see him going out and practicing and learning and working through the steps. And he's just a real smart dude that is really, I see him as a problem solver in the grow and figuring out, like a lot of different things. So he's got a lot to offer. He does mostly indoor cultivation, living soil cultivation. He's got a cool op over in Ohio. I think it's Ohio. I'm going to mess it up. My apologies. I think it's Ohio Fire Factory is what it's called. And then also joining us back again from that first Portland conference is Eric Branstad of Light Depth Solutions. He is a brilliant guy when it comes to greenhouse design and structure, and the way that you can build a greenhouse to optimize it for cannabis cultivation. And he travels kind of all over the U.S. and California, teaching folks how to do that. And it's really interesting. Folks take a lot of that stuff for granted. I have folks contact me often, and they'll I've got a bunch of dehumidifiers in my scene. Like, why isn't it dehumming? Why am I not able to meet requirement? And it's in design. I talked to one guy who recently had his heater literally right in front of the exhaust, and the thought was, well, we don't exhaust heat in the winter, so why would it matter? I'm like, well, that's how you dehum the thing, and you have to have the heat traveling across. And I explained, he's like, oh, just that they hadn't thought about it. And so there's simple steps and way you can design, and that's kind of what Eric brings to the table. He's been building and designing and selling greenhouses for a long time, and specifically for light depth cannabis, full force season. So I'm really stoked to have him back. And we're going to have a breeders panel going on Sunday. I'm trying to remember all the stuff that's going on. There'll be there'll be evening events. I haven't exactly dialed in which person is going to be doing the evening events, but they're gonna, at the evening, they kind of tend to be less lecture based and more personal. I don't know, more connecting to the emotion and the heart, I want to say, or the why, of why we do this. And it's kind of been a special time for these evening events.
You have really good breakdowns of different panels of different really wise people. You've had a really good breeder panels in the evening. You've had really good panels by DemPure certified farmers breaking down the different methods that they're using. You had a bunch of really great talks in the evenings that were all kind of a little bit different on each of them.
Yeah, we try to do with the breeder thing. I actually hit up Kevin Jodry pretty much before I knew him, and I was like, hey man, I was so inspired by the breeder series he had done at the Wonderland Nursery years ago, and I was like, I kind of want to just mimic that, but do it in each region. And so that's kind of what we do is we bring in, like when we go to Michigan, we'll bring in a bunch of breeders from that area, so that when farmers come together, they can get together with the breeders and connect. And it's actually been really beautiful. Like there's been, Then there's the seed exchange, the seed swap that happens on Sunday. It kind of happens all at the same time, you know. So everyone's like really excited. They're sharing genes and sharing cuts and making future connections, you know, and people start little businesses and do all sorts of trading, and it's pretty dang cool.
I know I got a whole bunch of seeds ready for this year's seed swap. I got a whole bunch of blue hash seeds that we saved specifically for that, and a bunch of other stuff that we set aside for it. So super excited. I'm hopefully going to have some Zimbabwe stuff ready for that. If not, I'll get some emails from people to send out when it's done.
That's what I hear from the people that I know that have been to the conference that everyone talks about is the seed swap being worth it, even if you don't get anything else out of any of the speakers, that just going for the seed swap, especially for, you know, local outdoor growers, you know, it provides a ton of value. I mean, it's.
I wanted to also
and you know,
welcome,
it's not necessarily, sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to also welcome Brendan Rust just joined us. Thanks for joining us, Brendan. He's giving a talk tomorrow at a conference here in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's gonna be kind of cool. It's gonna be the Cox Arena in Oklahoma City. I'm gonna be talking about the target nutritional levels for cannabis and maintaining sufficiency and balance in living soil systems. So like a big 2-day like cannabis expo. It's pretty big, pretty cool, fun stuff. Get to see lots of people in the community there and nerd out on weed stuff.
Oh yeah, I hope to be there with a friend of mine checking it out tomorrow. So definitely excited to hear your talk. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Josh. I just wanted to welcome him.
It's all cool.
So you also had Ed Rosenthal pop by your farm today, right, Brendan?
Yesterday, yeah, he came by. He stopped by for a little bit with Nordy. He's one of the people that are putting on the convention. He went on a like little tour of a couple different farms out here in Oklahoma. He went to Tim Delaney, which is one of the OGs from Northern California that's out here. And then I think he went by a Carter Creek Cannabis, which is Slim and Jinx's farm.
Cool. Awesome. So you got a kitty there in the background too.
Yeah. Animals around here are pretty loud.
Also, I did think it was funny. I met Brendan over in Oklahoma City the other day, and it turns out the owner of that restaurant is going to be a panelist on our conference this weekend. So I thought that was a really small world.
Really? At Cayudes?
Fun Farm Grows is one of the owners. He's going to be on the panel.
Yeah, it's a really awesome restaurant right there, all fish and Grateful Dead themed, and they have great food.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely a sweet spot. We'll have to take Josh when he comes to town.
Yeah. When are you going to be? When's the Oklahoma Regenerative Conference, Josh?
I'm not taking a dab here. It's the last weekend of April. Yeah, I haven't. I was just saying before you popped on, I haven't locked the location down, but I'm kind of working out the details for the other ones. But I'm pretty confident, having chatted with you and Steve and a couple other folks, that there's plenty of options available, and a fucking epic crew. Like I'm actually really fucking. I've never been to Oklahoma. I never would have imagined, like, I don't know anyone from Oklahoma, I guess. And you know what I mean? There's nothing drawing me there, but like now that there's all these friends have moved down there to grow weed, I'm pretty stoked to come check it out and see what you guys been doing. Like, seems like an epicenter of just hard work and getting after it, trying to like, kind of reminds me of the gold rush. Like people move into a place trying to, get their wares and figure that, imagine you guys are all just like dirty fucking Wookville, just like no showers for 30 days at a time.
It's like adapting, right? I've heard people say that Oklahoma had to do it because there's just nothing else cool about Oklahoma, and they need something for people to want to live there. So it's interesting that that they can sort of be like this. I don't know. It's like right in the middle of all this conservative area when it comes to cannabis. You know, like they just were like, you know what?
Because
Yeah,
the people come together out here pretty, like there's like strong community ties. I think it has a lot to do with the weather, because the weather is very unstable at some points, and like whole communities will come together to like lift people up that have been devastated by storms and stuff like that. And so I think that kind of mentality of coming together really plays heavily into the cannabis community out here. Not only that, but we have like, you know, we had a large amount of people that were local from here starting businesses, and because was licensing was open, a lot of like legacy farmers moved out here. A lot of people that have been doing this for a really long time came out here, and so that added more like legitimacy to the cultivation scene, as far as like, you know, really skilled cultivators and being able to have that kind of that thing that, you know, like that I had back in San Diego, or that a lot of people experience in Northern California, where there's a heavy community, people are trading genetics, they have their own kind of like hype markets and, you know, all that stuff. It's all here.
Right. And I think partially because it's such an open market, right? I mean, you know, like you were saying, they kind of had open licensing, you know, and having, I would say, fewer regulations than most recreational markets and medical markets also. I guess it doesn't really matter at this point, but, you know, having a more open and free market, I feel like draws people that, you know, I know
does
specifically
too.
some people that got frustrated trying to get set up in other states and got fed up with it and just said, fuck it, I'm going to Oklahoma. I personally know 2 people that just packed up all their shit. Well, I guess 3 if you count Steve. I wasn't counting him, but yeah, I mean, it's that.
A roommate too.
Yeah.
A lot of people, but it's not just cannabis that that businesses that boom. It's all the ancillary businesses. Everybody is impacted by the economic growth out here, because if you own a construction company or heating and air, or if you're a realtor or anything, all of those businesses that are associated with build outs and the construction and the maintenance, all of those people are profiting too. And the thing is, all these people are like small family farms, and so the money stays in Oklahoma, right? When people are profitable, they're going out and they're eating at local restaurants, they're spending money at the local economy itself. So not only just the businesses that are ancillary to cannabis, but like independent businesses in general boom too, because there's more finance being distributed amongst the people.
In addition to that, you had a kind of a collapse of the oil industry, which was kind of bringing some poverty to Oklahoma. And now all of those people that were working with pipe fittings and gas stuff and stuff are all working in the extraction industry. It really has helped a lot of the people that were suffering from the declining oil industry have really good paying jobs in something that they already have a decent amount of skill and knowledge with as well, you know, not just on the extraction side, but also on the cultivation side. So you're saying the plumbing, the infrastructure workers, really it has kind of helped directly make up for the failings of the you know, fossil fuel industry in terms of income.
Both you dudes have been there for like over a year, couple years probably. Are you I mean, I know that a lot more people have flooded in post you guys.
I'm a resident as of next week. I can hold my own license.
Nice, dude. In Washington, we started out like with 300 retail stores and 1,200 growers, licensed, you know, rec growers, and now we're down to about 600 rec growers and 500 stores. So the odds have gotten a little bit better, but just like everywhere else, when COVID hit, you know, this is just like, you know, everyone's like, oh, there's a need for weed, and everyone starts growing weed, and then there's too much weed, right? So I guess where I'm getting to is like, are you seeing that? Are you worried about that? Or like, what are your thoughts on like all the weed that's going to be, that's coming or is there?
It depends on your skill set, right? Because not everybody can grow fucking good weed.
Right. 100%.
The mids market, yeah, fuck yeah, that's fucked up. Or the lows, how many people fucking busted out huge ass outdoors, and how many people are turning that into rosin, right? So you have all this like lower grade. I'm not saying that it's lower grade, but when you're doing acreage and you're processing acreage into something that's usually reserved for like the highest quality, like indoor boutique flower, you know what I mean? It kind of fucks up those markets because the consumer can't tell the difference between something that was washed from like high quality boutique indoor and some mass produced fucking outdoor, you know what I mean? The consumer is the one who gets the kind of the shit into the stick on that, because it comes down to education. And here's the thing, a lot of these dispensary owners, they might be saying, oh, we're all about community and getting the highest quality product, but when it comes down to it, they're all about numbers and their bottom line, you know what I mean?
So what are you seeing? Like, let's follow that thought just out of curiosity. Like, what are you seeing an outdoor, grandma rosin go for, that's like A- quality, B+.
See, I don't go and purchase, but I see like real high quality rosin. I see $40 a gram right now. But the higher quality stuff is usually like 60, 65, 70.
That's about where we are.
Are you talking retail?
75, 85.
Retail, yeah, retail.
Yeah,
Oh,
retail.
okay. You still see some stuff once in a while for 80, 90 bucks, $110 a gram, but not much anymore.
Not typically. I don't think that you have to remember, dispensary owners are like middlemen, right? Like we're farmers like myself, I would usually like sell my packs or whatever back in the traditional market back in the day, like to fucking my customers. And I get, it's like most people now are basically selling them to the dispos or distributors. They're not going directly to the patient, right? So they're a large percent of their profit is some going to somebody else, because that's what a dispensary is it's basically a middleman, you know what I mean? And middleman's always mark up prices. So here's the thing too that I noticed, like if a consumer is like, oh, why the fuck is all the good weed like too expensive, blah blah, most of the times like farms like myself, we're giving really good prices to distributors and to dispensaries. So whatever they decide they want to mark up, that's their prerogative. And I can't really be like, hey, you need to sell this fucking cheaper so that, you know what I mean? I mean, I can suggest things like, hey, we can help drive business. We can help drive traffic through social media if you offer deals and stuff like that. But what it really comes down to it is the dispensary owners that are picking up product off of out of the market. They're the ones that are really responsible, right? Because if they're just buying fucking booth packs, fucking outdoor packs, or fucking just weed because it's cheap, and then you have people, that's the majority of the market right now, unless you're talking about high-end shops that are legitimately looking at the farmer, looking at the people who are producing the products, those people are still getting like the people, the indoor farmers that I work with, they're still getting $2,400 to $2,600 a pound. You know what I mean? So it's all over the place out here. It just depends on, where your distribution channels lie, how strong is your marketing potential, and how good is the weed that you grow.
Do you think that that part of it because like the consumer not knowing, I feel like is maybe an unrealistic expectation, especially when you like 99.9% of the places that you can buy it, you can't even smoke it. So is it like, I mean, in the store, like you can't try it before you buy it, like you have to look at weed or rosin or extract. And like I know that you're supposed to have bud tenders there to help, but I mean, I don't go into dispensary very often, but I can't think of a single time in which I felt like the bud tender was helpful or knowledgeable about, like really finding anything, like I can read the sign where it says indica, but like that's
Yeah,
not really, like not really the point. So
not really a thing.
I just feel like there's a disconnect there. Like, I don't know that it's reasonable to expect an end user to be able to look at medicine and be like, oh yeah, this is a good one, make a purchase and go home and be happy with the product. Like, I mean, and maybe that's just, coming from my experience. I used to be a medical grower directly for patients, kind of like what you were just talking about, the difference being in that, like you could just give people samples and they would be like, oh, this one works great for whatever it is they need it for. This is what I want. And especially when you were working with patients over years, because you could do that in Oregon back before recreational. You could make exchanges like that. So you kind of miss that, like, ability to get any sort of feedback as a grower about what you're growing and what they want and how it works for them. When it just goes to a dispensary like you're talking about, I feel like there's like a big disconnect, and that's sad, because in Oregon we used to be able to have that experience of getting patients their meds completely for free and being able to sell the excess directly to the dispensary and cover all of our costs and in that way and have it all be above board. We had about 6 years or so that we could do that before it all got messed up. And it would be nice to be able to go back to that. And so I think that part of what we deal with in dispensaries is that the end user can't consume anything at all. And they have to buy a small sample and come back for it, and who knows if it's there or not. But I just think it's messed up that you can't go to a dispensary and try out a particular sample if you want to, even if you have to pay for it. It just seems really weird that you really, other than like buying a sample, taking it home and coming back later for another pound of plastic.
Well, it'd be nice if you could get flights in the way that you get flights of beer. If I could go to the dispensary and get like a 1/4 gram, 1/2 gram, or even a gram of a bunch of different strains, just enough to roll a J or two with, or a couple of bull packs, and 1 or 2 bull packs, and just so I understood what the fuck, or even something that like spelled out what the differences are for people. So like, hey, you don't know, if you're new a cannabis patient and you come to a dispensary, I can't think of what are the better upsales for someone who just came in than having a nice pack that gives people a range of different types of cultivars so they can understand what's going to work for them medically, and be like, here, you know what, you don't know what works for you, I don't know either, but you can buy this pack of 4 or 8 strains that have radically different chemovar profiles, figure out what's helping you with your stuff, and then from there we can start working on what types of cultivars that we can help you. That would be an amazing thing for people to have at dispensaries.
I think that one of the things that, as all of us being educators, cannabis consumers for its medicinal aspect, I think sometimes we also forget that some people simply don't even give a shit, right? There's new people that come online, new smokers all the time, and I forget. And if your customers are Island Boy, then, I mean, how do you market it? I mean, they're basically gonna go in there and find something that they've heard a rapper rap about. And a lot of times you can, like, if you want to be really profitable and successful, what's really interesting is you can go to a site like LeafLink and see like what the most popular shit is, right? Probably some cookie shit or some gelato cross, or you know what I mean? And if there's like a gap where that gelato cross with this or whatever was super popular, but none of the farms are cultivating it, and that, and then you can go in and, I'm going to grow a bunch of this because that shit's going to sell. Like, some stuff just sells just because of the name associated with it. And looking at it from that aspect, I mean, some people don't even care about indica, sativa, anything. They're just like, I heard about this stuff, blah, blah, blah. The rappers are all singing about it. I want that fucking purple weed, and it's like, and when it comes to market and it comes to like sales, I mean, dispensary owners not going to like turn somebody down, and you know what I mean? It's just like we have like so many different consumers. So being able to try to fit all of those consumers into one category, it's not really feasible, So it's a weird way it's a weird state that cannabis is in, because of all those different factors, all the different things that are involved, marketing or education. Some people care, some people don't care, like it's just hard.
And the more people that get to grow at home, just totally just average people, as that just starts to become a thing, I think that's really gonna help separate a lot of stuff. Like there's going to be a lot of people that be like, oh man, well, there's a lot of people that are already that just grow what they need for the year, a couple, 2, 3 plants, 4 plants, whatever it is. And that's it, and they're fucking happy, and they maybe get a little bit like, I've made neighbors and stuff that like, they'll come over and ask for a cut, or maybe, and they'll bring me back seeds and stuff. And, I think that's really going to be just once that kind of kicks in, it'll be nice, because it'll put a big distinguisher in the game. People won't be like, certain people won't be chasing after that shit. Yeah, we'll still always have hype shit, but
I think that home grow was great too, because the basis of so much of the community, but also when somebody is having a successful harvest and stuff, and like they've got maybe a little bit of extra, that they shared with their friend, maybe they got a little extra money in their pocket, those people are more likely to go and be like, see what other people are doing too, and be like, oh, I'm going to go down to this shop because I heard so-and-so's just doing a new rosin drop, or so-and-so's just about to drop this flower, and it gives them the financial ability to go try some shit that they want to, where maybe they wouldn't have been able to before, because that brings that home grow thing, dude, man, it brings money to people's pockets. Like, and I'm all for it, man. Trade medicine, doing small amounts of like selling fucking an ounce to your fucking neighbor, man, that shit shouldn't be illegal at all. I mean, it shouldn't be taxed. It should just be totally free market enterprise, in my opinion, because when it comes down to it, that $300 or that $200 that he made, whatever, that's going to go back into the economy anyway. It's not like, I don't know, I just see it as kind of ridiculous the way some of the laws are all written out, but I mean, it's what we're dealing with right now.
Well, that's actually a little understated too, because in small market economies like that, it'll like you were saying earlier, it'll turn over inside of the town itself. So when somebody goes to the local grocery market and spends that same $5, then the person who owns the local grocery store still lives in the community, and they go back to another gas station that's owned locally, and that same $5 gets turned over. Economists say 6 times. So if you, instead of spending money at like Walmart, where basically most of that money gets exported outside of the community, free enterprise local markets like selling weed to your neighbor generally benefit the local economy far more than any sort of corporate sales, whether you're talking about cannabis or toilet paper or the groceries or anything. So yeah, I totally agree with you that it's ridiculous that you can't just sell your weed at the farmer's market, and it would be a huge benefit to to small farmers that you have seen really impacted by legislation. Somebody was talking earlier about only growing 5 or 6 plants and being good for the year. There's a number of growers that used to participate in the medical market that only do that now simply because they have no legal place to compete in Oregon's current market. So it would be a huge boost if we could get just like even under a certain amount of sales per year, like we do for basically every other crop that you can take to a farmer's market. It really can fit inside of agricultural regulations that we already have, and that would be great.
So, what other speakers do you have? I know you've got a lot of cool stuff that you've been working on there, Josh, for the conference. Any other interesting talks or other things you want to mention on the conference?
I guess there's a couple more speakers yet to come that I'm still working to lock down. But the one thing that I will mention is the theme for the year is water, just water. Not just water. I mean, water's pretty. It's the thing. It's a huge thing, and it's becoming a very big on-demand thing. I know a lot of us have been talking about it, and we farm, and it's a theme within our community that we farm with water conservation, and we do things to sequester water and carbon and whatnot. But I just really want to turn up the awareness and turn up the conviction, because I think that it's going to become a lot more pressing as we just, I mean, every year since I can remember, it feels like there's just extremes, and they're getting worse and worse. Right now we're getting floods. It's just been flooding for the last 3 months, 2 months, not 3 months, but 2 months. We've just been, we get a lot of rain here. So like, I'm used to rain, but we were getting a lot, like an inch a day, where we usually get a drizzle, like very little amounts of rain. We've probably reached 3/4 of our usual rainfall in the last 2 months. You're probably getting the same thing down there, Fumi.
But yeah, pretty much constant level rain. Yeah. Like, for example, I want to go out and take this is not weed related, but I want to go out and take like foliage shots, like autumn shots. It's just pouring rain like pretty much every day. So I look at the weather and I'm like, oh, sad panda. But yeah. So luckily I don't grow outside, because otherwise I'd be an even sadder panda. Anyway, cheers.
Yeah, if you were still outside, you'd be a sad person.
It would be miserable, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rot and misery and PM and
If you've never harvested giant outdoor plants in the rain, let me tell
that
you.
too. Yeah. Yeah. You're going to be soaking wet, cold, miserable. It's dark now. Like, it's like basically always dark now. So. Yeah.
Right. Hey, Josh, are you going to have anybody at the conference that might be able to explain to me like what some of these weird names are?
I don't know. I can't read
Coke
that one.
liquor? What
Coke liquor?
Coke liquor, dosey.
It happens.
Celebrity foul mouth. I mean,
Hollywood pure Kush.
Okay, all right.
I can break them all down for you.
At least these are all names you could say with a straight face to a 70-year-old woman. Like, some of the shit that people name this shit, it's something that I really run into, because Brendan knows this a lot from working in Oklahoma. Like, over half the market here in Oklahoma is over the age of 55. It's predominantly a more, it skews towards people that are older. So people forget that when they're naming stuff like cokehead slut and like,
well, yeah, I mean, Coke liquor. How am I supposed to plant these with my son? Like, I'll be like, yeah, son, go plant this Coke liquor over there.
You explain to him. It's simple, son. The mother was cocaine hippos.
Let me
He goes, what are cocaine hippos? Well, there's a guy named Pablo Escobar, and you
got to get
education.
No, seriously though, what's up with these? I'm curious as to what lineage they might be. You can send it to me later.
No. So it's fun to talk about. So the Coke liquor is cocaine hippos, which is Marine, and the father is a licorice lime, which is a lime vine, Testarossa lime vine F2. Testarossa being a magnum opus or Royal Kush across Skittles. So it's got Skittles, Royal Kush, and the cocaine hippos is a Girl Scout cookies Chem D, essentially. So it's a slew of fucking, same thing with the celebrity foul mouth. That's a Hollywood pure Kush with I've been putting out so much stuff. What's the other cross on that? I think that's the lime vine as well. The licorice lime as well on that one. I'll have to look back on it. But if you send me them all, I can hit you up with them all.
The last one was dosey liquor.
Dosey liquor. So dosey dough crossed licorice lime. I think I sent you all the same mail. Is probably what I did.
Nice.
With the separate females.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So the Hollywood PK one, that one's coming out really just at rank, and the Hollywood Pure Kush. I don't know if you've ran that one. It has a funk to it that at least when you cross into it, that comes out pretty much every time. That I really, really like.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, look for them in the greenhouse here in a few months.
Awesome, man. I look forward to seeing your shots. How's your grow been going? Your setup?
Yeah, it's
been.
been.
I haven't seen any photos for a minute.
Yeah, I have. Obviously, I got a little distracted with my father's services and stuff, and then we had some foul ups with shipping. So, like, some of my blackout and light depth equipment is probably sitting in a shipping container somewhere. So that's been difficult to be able to get that done. So I don't have any of the light depth stuff done, but we did finish getting the pump hooked up, the new pump hooked up, which has more power, just because I wanted, it was challenging. Like, I had to get everything just right to get all the siphons to kick off. So I didn't quite have enough flow to have it set up the way I wanted to, and I didn't really feel like messing with siphons or anything like that. So I went ahead and just bought a bigger pump and hooked it up. So that's all done now. And so yeah, other than that, it's pretty much just like tweaking stuff. I'm cutting some lumber to go over the top in between the beds. And then I just got to get some plants selected to go in there and get them transplanted. I have just a couple of moms in there that I threw in there a while ago to flower out, just to get the system running. And I have seeded my greens in those beds. So the last of the media finally showed up this last week. So we finally got the hydrogen in to the top of all the beds. So the next group of pictures will be out once I get everything loaded up with plants. So yeah, that's kind of where that's at. So I'll do an update on the conference this weekend. So part of that will be on the greenhouse automation that I have set up with like smart plugs and fans and cool stuff like that. So yeah, there's still a couple things. The light depth equipment and my exhaust fan is still yet to show up. So hopefully our shipping stuff gets worked out soon. But yeah, so that's kind of the plastic is on now. So the clear is on and set up, and we are just getting ready to do the roll up sides and the hydrogens on top. And we do have it, like I said, we have a couple plants in the system now, but that's pretty much it. It's all designed to be, kind of one tank over the top. So all the plumbing just runs inside the tank itself. All the overflows for all the beds, if something does get clogged up, just go right back down into the tank. So it's all designed to, just be kind of a larger version of my indoor with different size beds. Oh yeah, and so since this picture, we also did all the electrical and hooked those up. So
right here.
Those are so that's an input that's not done yet. So that's all the input is just coming up from you can kind of see, I can't move the mouse, but you can see the input line going up the middle there. And then each one just shoots up a T to each bed, flows out of the pump there. So I have a totally different pump now, which we'll have pictures of that. And so on the right-hand side now, there's a little pump house set up with a larger pump to go through there. But there you can see the U siphon or loop siphon or whatever you call it on the right. And that's the water input there. You can see coming up from the bottom. And so each bed fills and drains independently on its own. And now the hydrogen is on top, so it would come up to the top of the bed. You'd see up there. You can see where the overflow is cut there, where that piece of thing is just sitting in the groove there. That's that eventually gets tied down to be the overflow. So if a bed does get clogged up for any particular reason, it'll just overflow back down into the tank. not make a mess. So in between the beds will be covered eventually. So I'm designing it so that we can flip them over. So there'll be a kind of a lid that'll go between each one, and one side will be white and one side will be black. So we can flip it over depending on what time of year it is. So if we want heat in the wintertime, we'll flip the black one over. And if we want to reflect light in the summertime, we'll put the white up. So working on those will probably won't be done by this weekend, but that's what we'll do eventually. And yeah, so that's kind of the the overall design. Each one just floods and drains back down into the bottom. The tank is sloped from one end of to the other. So underneath, I don't know if Steve, you can go back to where you can see it goes. The tank goes out to a larger portion. Yeah, right there. Oh, go back to the larger picture. That's going to play a video in a second, I think. So yeah, you can see
So
it.
the fish run the whole length of the system.
Yep. So
Yep.
it goes underground, or not underground. I mean, I guess sort of underneath the end wall of the greenhouse. So where I'm standing right now is outside of the greenhouse, and that is just a shaded area. So it's
Right.
like a carport. So that's kind of where the tanks will go. Eventually, I'll probably put in a filtration, but the fish swim all the way up and down from one end to the other, and it's sloped. So this far end that we're walking out to now is only about a foot deep. So any change in water level happens all the way down at just the one end, and where the fish hang out most of the time down by the pump stays pretty much the same water height. It varies very little because there's so much surface area. So you don't get very much variation in water. It holds about 550 gallons or so, depending on how full it is, total water volume. So
This is
just
just,
wanna say,
I
look at
mean,
all the bees.
so
Look
clean,
at all the
dude.
bees drinking from his system right here. It was one of the things I noticed in San Diego, and I'm sure Brandon noticed this watering his plants too. The bees love to come drink from your plants as soon as you water them.
yeah, we get bees and all kinds of different types of, pollinators, I would say, coming in to check it out for sure. And we have systems in the front yard, and we have another small greenhouse system that we in the front yard had a lot of decorative flowers and bulbs and stuff that come back every year from the very nice lady that lived here before, had a beautiful yard, did a great job. So we get tons of beneficial insects back every year, which is which is great. But yeah,
Did you insulate underneath the trough, if you will?
I did
the
not.
You did not.
No, the only thing that's under there is about 3 layers of landscape fabric, just to give it a little bit of cushion, because it is pretty much solid rock. I was a little concerned about some of the edges. We actually, instead of digging it out by hand, we had somebody come in with an excavator, just because it was just brutal trying to dig in it by hand. So we brought a little excavator in, and he dug the whole thing in like 45 minutes. So it's pretty cool.
We were someone had asked about on one of the Facebook groups about insulating or reinforcing an IBC tank, and both Steve and I were commenting on it, and I was just thinking that's the reason I asked this. But when I had recommended insulating an IBC tank, and it was because of my experience in Minnesota, which has a very deep frost line down to 6 feet. So I actually I had done my IBCs without insulating them, and I just couldn't get up to temp. And so I finally pulled them out, insulated them, dropped them back in, and was able to get everything up to temp, no problem. But you're in a warmer climate, so you probably won't have any issues.
Yeah, and I would prefer to go a little bit deeper in the ground, but again, because it was such solid rock,
Right.
in the location of this particular greenhouse, I didn't want to go much deeper. So you would get a little bit better, obviously, thermal insulation. If you could go deeper, generally, 4 to 6 feet will give you a pretty consistent temperature, at least in more moderate climates like I'm at here. And I'm only 2 feet at the deepest, so I don't plan on it being a problem. I think it'll still be enough to be able to regulate the temperature for the most part. I may have to throw a heater in there in the coldest days, but I don't even run a heater in there right now. And I could probably get away. I'm going to try and get away with just a passive, like solar water heater on a timer. So we'll see how that works. But I have a design I've been working on for being able to do it as part of my automated system to be able to run the solar water heater when necessary. So that's probably 3 or 4 projects away at this point, but it's definitely on the back burner. But I could just throw a regular tank heater in the deep part, and I feel like I'll have enough insulation, especially being mostly or 100% covered from end to end, because it'll either be, the space between the media beds will be covered other than a very small amount. And then also the cover going underneath the greenhouse to the other side will all be completely covered and sturdy enough to walk on. So there'll be a door where we were looking through there. So you would step up on top of the tank and open the door in order to get in. And then there'll also be a door to open up to where you can access the fish and the pump and stuff like that. So we'll tour, most of that stuff will be done. We're building the door, the flip up door to access the fish. That may or may not be done, but the little pump house that we created for the new pump is already in, and that door is already in as well, and or both doors are already in. So we'll get to see all that, the electrical, not the exhaust fan, but just the smart controlled circulation fans are in. So we'll be able to check those out. The soil temperature and humidity sensor, all kinds of fun toys we'll check out this weekend. Sunday, right, Steve? Are you moving to Sunday?
Yeah, you're the closing talk on Sunday. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll put everyone to sleep. That'll be great.
Yeah, and then after your talk, we're gonna do the drawing for the grand giveaway. So it'll be fun.
Dude, I fucking love that design. Sorry, you want to go on, but I just think it's such a easy design that people could incorporate into any backyard. Out like for seasonal aquaponics, that they could turn, grow plants in the summer or whatever. I don't know. I really like it, man. It's simple and it's efficient and it's not super elaborate. It sounds like I'm knocking it, but I'm not. I think it's really brilliant, in that
No,
way.
that's really exactly, what I wanted to, design it to be, was something that's not necessarily like super elaborate or, really unattainable by small grows, like medical grows in Oregon, up to about 48 plants. I feel like you could scale this up to that pretty easily just by making the greenhouse longer. So, that's kind of the idea behind it, is that, a small scale, say tier 1, 2-tier recreational grow could scale that out pretty easily and be able to maintain a lot of plants. I feel like people underestimate how much time they spend like watering plants, whether you're doing it by hand or managing an irrigation system or whatever. And so, when I tell people, like I really only water plants twice in their entire life, and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, when we transplant them from clone or seedling into a dual root zone pot, and then we put them in an aquaponic system, they really only need to be watered twice, sometimes only once, sometimes not at all, depending on how big they are and what the setup is. But for the most part, like once they get roots into the water, you really don't have to water them anymore just to keep them alive. So it becomes a very
you only need to water the soil just to maintain moisture, so it's not like a brick, right? You just have to water them every 1 to 2 weeks, or depends how big they are. If they're late in flower, sometimes you have to keep that a little bit more moist. But you're just only maintaining moisture or top feeding if you have to top feed with a nutrient. Yeah.
Right. Ideally, that's definitely the case. And the only thing I would say is that even when that doesn't happen, that plant's still not going to die. Whereas if you have a malfunction on a, like, let's say you're just using a drip line or something like that to be able to water a plant, like it's not going to get water for days at a time and start showing symptoms before you even see it. Whereas you get a much larger window to be able to actually take action in aquaponics. I feel like you can, especially if you're have more free time to be able to do things like go around and check to make sure that you have a good soil moisture level in each one, because you're not going around managing watering every single plant. You can go around and identify those areas, like if you've got a clogged drip line or something like that that is watering your dual root zone. Because I do have, just like Steve has, a separate watering system to water my dual root zone. So separately from the input in my beds, it's just on a timer. It waters whenever I turn on the pump, basically is how my system works. I know Steve has different setups, but essentially it's like a drip line that goes to the top of the dual root zone pot that keeps your soil moisture where you want it to be, or maybe you're feeding nutrients through that liquid directly to it. Maybe you're feeding a tea, or I've done FPJs, like one of my more popular indoor grows before I moved here, where I grew some really bright colored cookies, and it came out really well. It was all fed through liquid FPJ nutrients essentially to the dual root zone, and that's the only supplement that it had the entire time. So there are a number of different ways that you can manage it, but the point being, when you're doing it in aquaponics this way, you spend so much less time managing the water just to keep your plants alive, that you're freed up to do things that are much more beneficial. So I just feel like it's a huge benefit in doing, whether it's aquaponics or dual root zone aquaponics or anything else, that it's one of the big reasons why I wanted to do aquaponics in the first place. It was just not having to constantly worry about watering my plants. Watering and weeding, those are the two things that drove me away from traditional gardening, I would say. So those are drastically cut down by doing aquaponics in a number of different methods. But dual root zone specifically, I feel like is very forgiving, in that even if you did let that soil break out and go completely dry, that plant's not going to die and it's still going to finish. Whereas in a commercial, like a blue mat setup, if you've got a blue mat that is malfunctioning, that's going to probably cause issues that will be much more obvious at final harvest. That's just my opinion, after doing it pretty much as many ways as I can find.
So with this vertical top out style manifold, it works really well for automatically purging air, preventing venturies, and allowing for very accurate dosing. It doesn't matter if you're doing soil, living soil, cocoa, aquaponics. When you need to have accurate water dosing, this is the best manifold design. We've tested over 30 different ones with myself and Robbie back at the aquaponics source, and this is the one that we settled on. Man, does it work well. So this is what we use at all of our commercial operations now. But this is the best, kind of gives you the idea where you fill it up from below, from a tank, pumps up through here, and you set it on a seconds timer so the water can flow. Sorry, I'm pointing at it and you guys can't see it. Let me use the mouse here. So the water flows up from your holding tank up through here and then up through the top outs down into your pots. But because they're all level across the whole row with one venturi air pop out at the top that loops down on a T back to the main reservoir, just in case you happen to overflow. As soon as you shut that pump off, it's going to automatically pull air and immediately air brake all of these as they break out. And you can run lines down to your plants with your normal spigots or whatever else that you want to put on there. But this is the main manifold design that we found works extremely well. And we can get within just a few milliliters of dosage between this plant and the plant, 200 plants down. and have very little variation. So when we're doing things like dual root zone, where we're trying to get specific amounts for top watering and across many numbers of different plants in an automated method, this really is the best way. And what's nice about this is you can use 1 inch, ½ inch, 2 inch plumbing, whatever it is you want to do with this design. And you can run things like purely organic nutrients. You don't have to worry about line clogging and all the rest of it like you do with some other methods. So because you can scale this up to larger diameter plumbing.
Yeah, that's really a great way to solve a problem that I feel like anybody who's done a significant amount of drip lining or anything else, at some point you're going to run into uneven distribution once you get to a certain size. So thanks for sharing that, Steve.
And everything just, sorry, I had my mic off, but the solution just drains back to the bottom. So that's how you get.
Yep, and because we're not running anything that's not fish safe, it doesn't matter even if I happen to overrun it too much by accident. We try to dose about 50% of the saturation rate of the soil, but if I happen to overshoot it, no big deal. We're not using anything that's going to hurt the fish anyway. So, and speaking
like that, man.
Speaking of stuff that doesn't hurt the fish, Brendan Rust actually has a super awesome bokashi spot out here in Oklahoma. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? You got all kinds of wonderful things for regenerative growers there.
Yeah, so I have my office out here, and I mainly just use it for doing my manufacturing for the microbes, doing filling orders for sending out packages, and doing like packaging up like mineral amendments. But Bokashi Earthworks is mainly focused on microbial inoculants, mineral amendments, and I'll be working on some other stuff too, just to help people that aren't familiar with the type of style that I do, that aren't familiar with modified growing mixes or living soil systems. And I'll be working with NASA Agritech to bring some things to market, some carbon-based fertilizers that they actually have some synthetic in it. Like they use hydrolysis. So they use like a mineral apatite, and they'll use hydrolysis to extract all of the elemental molecules from the mineral. That way they can attach it to carboxylic acid, carbolactic acid, sorry. It's COOH. It's a carbon, 2 oxygens, and a hydrogen, and it's basically like pure fulvic acid. And so they're able to molecularly attach all of the elements, all the macro and micro elements to these carbon chains, these pure carbon chains, to keep them basically as a transport system, so that way they never fall out of solution. One of the things that I think is really difficult to understand is the chemistry that happens in any of these systems with oxidation and redox potentials, the way that elements actually change their form and become available or unavailable to the plants. And using this carbon-based technology, all the elements stay in a molecularly available form. So it's available on metabolic demand, either when the root comes in contact through inception, either through mass flow or through diffusion. It's just always available for uptake, and it stays in the soil. So the really cool thing about this particular fertilizer is that you only need to use it maybe 3 or 4 times throughout an entire cycle, and that's in agriculture crops. The gentleman that I'm working with, Dr. George Caltiez, he's a Korean War veteran. He worked as the the engineering director on the Apollo missions that helped get launch the Apollo missions to the moon. And then he worked in the agriculture sector he used this fertilizer to increase the rice protein content from 6 to 11% and then doubled the yields. I used some of this fertilizer in my R&D box, and it made my plants look like they were made out of plastic. So it was pretty exciting. It's going to be one of those things because, you know, the way that I do my cultivation is I test the soil, I do saturated paste, and then I'll do tissue and sap testing occasionally as well. And I'll use the mineral amendments to, you know, keep sufficient amount of nutrient in there and also keep it balanced. And this can be really difficult. Take a lot of knowledge and years of experience to kind of get this done. And so having a step where someone can transition from, you know, maybe a completely synthetic method and kind of transitioning by using a fertilizer that's only like 1 part, you know, for veg and then 1 part for bloom. So that I'm going to be bringing to market. And, you know, it's really to be for mainstream agriculture, right? Because we're still on the petrochemical fertilizers here in America, and it's not like that in a lot of other countries. It's not like that in China. Mexico's transitioning over to this carbon-based fertilizer. And so the real play is the agriculture sector, because we have so much agronomic soils that are really not sufficient for high yielding, high protein crops. And so being able to add carbon and increase the biology with this type of fertilization has a massive benefit and can help people who are using conventional methods kind of transition and reevaluate their farming practices. So they could use this as they do a conventional fertilizer, and then kind of it'll help them understand a little bit more about why this is important, you know, increasing soil carbon, increasing the soil biology, being able to keep things in available form, just the things that go along with it. And then also doing, you know, crop covers and just proper land management to help with the, you know, the problem that we have is really comes down to energy. We have 8.2 billion people. So there's a lot of people to feed. And this is one of the ways that it's, I think, going to happen in the future. One of the another products is, because this is a carbon-based fertilizer, when you take away the liquid, you can make solids out of it. What they've developed is a compostable nutrient pot. So the pot is completely made out of this organic carbon-based fertilizer. And the significance of this is that it increases the area in which the root is actually in contact with an available source of nutrition. One of the biggest drawbacks for fertilization is that, I'm going to give you an example. If you have a 10-10-10 NPK type product, right? Even if it has things, you know, all your micronutrients and things like calcium, magnesium, and sulfur, that 10%, let's say that nitrogen, that 10% of that nitrogen, let's say this is as just a conventional fertilizer, only 10% of that fertilizer is going to be available once it actually gets into the soil. And that's because of the chemical reactions that take place. Not only that, but only 2% of that 10% is going to actually come in contact with the root surface area. So these things are really, really insufficient. When you're able to increase the surface area of the root by having it being, you know, present against its source of nutrition, that's going to aid in the productivity of those plants. So not only that, but it can decrease labor costs. So if you have a pot that's made out of and you go and, you know, in my case, transplant it into a grassroots fabric bed, I'm not going to have to disturb the root during transplant where I have to flip over a pot, dig things out. I literally just put the whole thing in the soil system. That pot is going to decompose, break down all that nutrient, and it's going to be available and get it through its vegetative cycle. That's what it's meant to do. Have enough nutrition at the root zone to get it through an entire veg cycle, and then you can address the nutritional needs when you flip. So those are two of the products that are going to be that I'm going to be distributing here soon.
Sweet. I'll definitely look forward to learning more about that stuff for sure. Speaking of those types of things, I know Josh has got a bunch of new microbes and stuff that he's been working on that would complement those very well.
Yeah, sorry, taking another dab.
I seem to always pick when you're dabbing by accident.
Oh man, this grape dosage. I got this grape biscotti. It's fucking delicious.
That's his secret. He's always dabbed.
I'm always dabbed. That's why I can only make half cents. Yeah, my homie Nick with the Rooted Leaf hit me up. It was kind of a slow process, but essentially between his company and myself, we came out with a series of microbial inoculant, a soil conditioner, a saponin tea, and a liquid bacillus that we've kind of done a soft launch with, and we're just we knew it was going to take us a second to work through some kinks, so we're working through those. But and we dropped some stuff off, and we're going to be sending out some samples to friends that they can fuck with. But it's just kind of like it's similar to to what I see Brandon doing. And I don't really know all the details of what you're doing, but I see that you're offering like a lot of stuff where people can work it out on their own, and take the base products and supplement as needed. This is more it's more biological, so we had on the basis of the microbe inoculant. It's a simple powdered lactobacillus. It's food grade. I mean, simple, but it's food grade, and it's super high counts per whatever. It's just, super nice stuff. It's from what the research that Nick has done, it's has the highest counts of on the market, and it's not something he's making, it's something he's sourcing. So yeah, and then the biostimulant, I'm really stoked on it. It's a matcha and Peruvian cacao, and it's got coconut sugar in it as well, and it's a booster for those microbes, get them going. And then the saponin tea, I don't know if you guys have fucked with that at all, different types of saponins. This one is a mix. We wanted to, you can't fuck with this. I know Steve's just itching to say, do not put saponins in with your fish. It will 100% kill your fish systems. But it used in different ways. It adds a lot of oxygen and surface area to your root zone, to your soil, excuse me. But it also some of the products we use build fungi, right? So it's not just saponins like soap nuts, but the licorice root actually feed the fungi and build up that fungi population, which is what we're after in a cannabis situation. We're after, in my opinion, higher fungal loads than bacterial loads, which is dry.
You know what? I hear this a lot. And one of the things that I always think about is that when you see something like fungi, right, and it's visual, and you're saying, oh, look, I have a fungal dominant soil. I feel like if we were counting actual cells, that no matter what, that bacteria will always be dominant, because there's endophytes. Yeah, the endophytes inside the fungi that work on the fungal filaments. I think that, like, if you're seeing massive blooms in fungal growth, that the bacteria is just as, if not more, numerous in those types of systems.
For sure. For sure, the bacteria is everywhere. The fungi is, I think that the concept is that, is that you're thinking about, and maybe it's a language thing, but you're thinking, I'm thinking about soil coming from transition from desert to, old growth forest. And along that transition, you go from highly only bacteria, because when you just sterilize something, the first thing to come back is the bacteria, and then the fungi takes a lot longer process. So I think it's more speaking to the the advanced, the more advanced system, right?
You can, I think the fuel source for all of these different populations, whether it's bacteria or fungi, is carbon. It's definitely carbon. When I look at the amount of organic matter in soil, the reason why I look at that is because the carbon is energy, right? That is the energy potential that you have inside your soil, because carbon has the ability to bond to and interact with hydrogen and oxygen, H2O, to create like all these different
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the way Elaine taught it to us, or whatever, was, N to, or I'm gonna mess it up, nitrogen to carbon and bacterial to fungi. Same, right? The nitrogen are the bacteria. The higher the bacteria, the more nitrogen you have in the system, and the more carbon, the higher fungal loads you're going to have in the system.
I think it's cool that you have a powdered lactobacillus product to further complement people's traditional production as well. Adding and diversifying your lacto is never a bad thing, be it with bokashi, lactobacillus, or air collected with KNF. The more different types you can combine together into your collection, the better results you'll have.
And the more stuff, but also you don't want to overload. Like I wouldn't want to just be dumping over and over lactobacillus, right?
Well, like if you're how I do it is I build a single culture, and I'll add species to that. But what survives, right? If it doesn't make it to the next round, like it doesn't make it to the next round, and it wasn't strong enough to survive, right? So I love combining kefir, bokashi, and other lactobacillus sources, I think. And not only that, but it translates into a wider range of vitamin B complex, which helps your plant's growth.
You can also change the chemical makeup of the starting material that you're using to culture these microbes, and that will have an effect on what lives and what doesn't, because some things are more selective in the elements that they need. I know that for the Pseudomonas bacteria, since they have 4 different modes of metabolism, you can pretty much put any type of, like I'll put things like iron sulfate, calcium, magnesium, other elements, humic and fulvic acids, when I'm culturing like the trichoderma and the bacillus subtilis together. And I see greater efficacy when I add in, different substrates for them to feed on, as opposed to just something like a molasses, which is the complex carbohydrate.
That's really interesting. I never thought about that, and that's often a question I've heard a lot about with people doing bokashi or even IMO collection. Is traditionally, with at least Master Cho's teachings, they teach with rice, but I know Dr. Elaine Ingham is talking about using oats and North American species having a possibly better effect. And then I've also heard, with Jadam, they use the potato starch. So, it is kind of interesting to see the diversity in the carbohydrates, just like you're saying.
They'll culture different microbes on different types of substrate, and the reason why is because the carbon ratio of those substrates are different, and then the mineral makeup of them. The way that I see it is like, if you think about a lot of these like cellulose, it's a crystalline structure, and I like to think of it as like a zipper, right? And as you're breaking that those bonds, it's like unzipping the zipper, and so you're releasing the carbon, you're releasing the hydrogen, or you're releasing the oxygen, and then all the other molecules that make it, like the nitrogen, right? So there's all these, if you're breaking down a more complex compound that has more available elements in it, and it's not just something like maybe carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. It has iron in there, or manganese. You're going to get a different type of microorganism that's going to utilize those elements. And then also you have to remember too that plants and microbes are competing for the exact same elements too, continually, always.
So you do a lot of both of you, Josh and Brendan, do a lot of beds and living soil, permanent living soil beds. What advice do you guys have, both of you, as far as things that maybe worked and didn't work, since you guys have had a lot more experience than the rest of the panel? I'd love to ask both of you that question. I know, Josh, you do quite a bit more companion planting than I think Brendan does. What are some of the different things that maybe you found worked or didn't work, or what is there any other kind of unique things about your methodology that you think might be good knowledge to pass on? Josh, you're muted.
I was gonna say, like, what I do is a little bit different in that, you can even tell, like, Brandon's knowledge of the science, it goes deeper than mine, because in a lot of ways I don't have to rely on it, I guess, because of my system design. In that, like, from when, and I'm just judging on, so Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I see is you're growing in containers or in container beds, where my system is direct into the earth. So I get a lot of forgiveness in my fuck ups, is I guess what I'm trying to say. I don't have to be as smart. I don't have to, you know what I mean? Because there's just as the natural system is down in there. There's plenty of minerals. Similar to when, like, Marty was talking about, like, if the blue mat fails, I really don't see it as much. Like, if the blue mat fails and I get a flood, I'll see that. But if it fails and it's not watering enough, I don't necessarily see it until the end of the cycle, where I'm looking at yield, or maybe I get into week 4 or 5 and I kind of notice, oh, well, these ones right here are a little bit smaller. So that's just, I don't know, just one difference that I was thinking. I don't know, better or worse or whatever. I'm really intrigued by what Brandon does. Those pictures, they look pretty sweet, especially those bickets, man. When I'm looking at a plant that I'm growing and know pretty well, and watching him crush them, I'm definitely intrigued about what's going on over there. But to answer the question more specifically, I do like my system being connected to the ground, and it requires me to have a heated root zone, where, like, other folks can be raised up and do, like, raised beds that connect, and I'm connected to the ground, and I have those heated pipes in there that allow me to do that, the radiant tech. And so that allows me to push the root zone. I actually push my root zone up into 78, 82 this time of year, and I can really see just the difference. But if I go down to 72 versus being up into 78, 82, the plants really fucking love it this time of year.
Yeah, if you can get away with having a healthy biome that doesn't facilitate any pathogens, and you can keep your root zone in those higher temperatures with a little more moisture, the biology is going to cycle a lot faster, right? It's going to break down organic matter. The enzyme production of that soil is going to be higher. If you think about it like the way that you would cultivate, mushrooms, you usually have, like, or if you're cultivating something like that, you're usually working in a really humid, warm environment. The soil loves that. So it really, really helps with nutrient cycling, the breakdown of organic matter. It's just like, I know that if I was, like, indoor and you start getting your soil temperature that hot, it affects, like, the humidity and the temperature. I mean, usually if you're indoor, right, it's like the only way you're going to get that is if you increase your temperature and humidity in the room, and that's not always conducive, depending on what time of flowering you're at. But I
Can I ask-
definitely see the relation with the higher temperatures in the root zones.
Yeah, it's fucking beautiful, man. And that's actually a question I was going to ask you. I've come from indoor growing, and the last whatever years been in the greenhouse, in the system that has a little bit more ebb and flow than like a concrete bottomed greenhouse. Where do you keep your? It sounds like a basic question. I'll get to why I'm asking in a second. But where do you keep your VPD? Like, where are you at night temperature and humidity? Where are you at day temperature and humidity in your greenhouse? What are your thresholds?
Well, I try to look at it's greenhouses in Oklahoma. It's difficult, right? Because we're not super consistent with the weather, but I try to keep in the summertime. There's like, what can you do? It's going to get hot. So I try to keep my nighttime temperatures consistently warm too, because what happens is when it's warm and humid in summer in Oklahoma, you still have to run your heaters, even if it's already hot at night, right? Because you have to mitigate some of that humidity. So it just kind of depends on the outside weather, dude. You have to be prepared to make adjustments on a dime, because you might have a nice dry day. It's warm, but your RH in your greenhouse is 60% right where you want it. But then it fucking rains, right? Okay, well, now I'm going to have to figure out a way to mitigate this humidity in these greenhouses, because, the dehues can't handle it just can't handle it, right? Because it's just different from indoor. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to make those adjustments. I like to run in any setting, I like to run my veg at around 70, 75 RH and between 78 and 84 temperature. And then for my flowering, typically, I like to run those same temperatures all the way until week 3, week 4. But when I start to get heavier set on flowers, I like to drop that RH down.
How far? That's exactly where I've been running my stuff too. The reason I was asking is because I just got 3 Andin dehums into my system, and I've been struggling to keep low enough to dehum enough without having any mechanical. So I got these 3 units, and it's working really nice. And all of a sudden I realized, whoa, it's way too dry in the day, So now I got to start fucking with this shit, right? A little bit.
Yeah, dude, it's weird because like we'll have to set our heaters to certain temperatures depending on what time of year it is. Dehues are like pretty much always running in our greenhouses.
Right.
Some of the ways that you can also mitigate some of that extra humidity is by pruning, right? Anything that's receiving less than, I think it's like 300 or 400 ppfd, is going to transpire, but it's not going to be photosynthesizing, right? So it's taking energy and it's creating more atmospheric water vapor.
Sure.
And so if you take that off, you're going to eliminate that wasted energy, and then also that transpiration that's coming from those lowers. So I know keeping the plants pruned up can help mitigate some of that humidity as well. But dude, it can be difficult too, especially if you're running these living soil systems, right? Because when your plants are starting to release CO2 at nighttime, right? And then your soil is also off-gassing, and it's off-gassing because of all the biology, right? And so you have 2 different systems, right, inside of a single system that are both releasing, something into the atmosphere that's going to create more humidity.
I would definitely say that in Oklahoma, the only time I've seen it have kind of not a ton of problems with the climate control is when we had subterranean underground systems. So we do a lot of geothermal. It took me a minute. Blah, sorry, smoked some good hash earlier. Took me a minute to remember some running the underground piping and doing it that way. The geothermal, it really helps in the summertime with the air conditioning, as well as that cooler air kind of helping dry stuff out a little bit more than the rest. But if you're ever doing new infrastructure, new construction, definitely do the geothermal as deep as you can. But again, Oklahoma has pretty high water tables as well, which is also a problem, especially when it floods. So it's like kind of tricky. You got to make sure you always have a deep well. You can actually get footer fittings. What's the name of the company? There's a couple of different companies that do these underground cistern fittings. It looks like a giant boot that you can get. It's a plastic housing, and then you can get a regular well pump or even a big aquarium a pump or large pond pump that's submersible. Stick it down on the bottom of it and pump out the bottom if you have to in an emergency, or even just a regular sump pump. But typically we would use those with those well pumps that work really well.
Yeah, I think right now in Oklahoma for greenhouse growers, since it's cooler, right from like I'd say November all the way until it starts getting warm again is like the best season for greenhouses because it's nice and cool and it's dry for the most part.
Nice.
The other thing that you can do is hydronic cooling. We did this in a couple places in Colorado, and I'm sure you could do it out here in Oklahoma. Is in Oklahoma and Texas, the groundwater is very cold underground. And what you can do is you can pump that water up, pump it through your system, and then pump it back down underground and back into your aquifer. And you can just recirculate that cold water through basically your slab on the bottom, or even through a heat exchanger, and you can actually use that to chill the water at a much more energy efficient rate or cost effective rate than just about anything else. And you can use those methods to cool down the system quite a bit. We actually had to do this at a place called Vertica out in eastern Oklahoma. We actually ran a whole bunch of coils in the beds of their DWCs and then underground, where we buried them with twice as much footage. But typically you'd want to aim for 3 or 4, but they started off with a little lesser amount. Just it gets kind of expensive, especially with the current pricing these days with transporting that much metal. But buried those all underground with a little bit of layer of sand right around the piping to protect it, and then buried it back underground, and that helped bled a lot of it off. There's also another grow that I worked with where they converted a pig house, and to cool the water systems is on the border with Oklahoma and Arkansas. But to cool the water in those systems, they ran it to they had a super deep water pond that would have for water treatment that would then go onto the pig farms. Well, I forget what the depth was, 12 or 14 feet deep. They sunk a deep coil in there as a heat exchanger to cool down the water that was flowing through the beds that then ran through the grow beds and the DWC beds and the fish tanks to act as a heat exchanger to cool that down. And that worked very efficiently as well. So there are ways that you can do that using, water to water heat transfer as well. Water transfers heat much better, especially for heating. We used to do that as well in Colorado, heating grow beds via the water using a closed loop tankless water heater and gas or propane, so you can run them off grid if you wanted to, and then run that on a closed loop to heat your fish tanks and your grow beds and your sump tanks. And this would allow that heat off that water to heat your whole greenhouse, which was super efficient as long as you had a dehu to knock the humidity down now and then. Much cheaper than running gas heat.
Hey guys, it's kind of getting late. I'm gonna sign off. Appreciate you guys having me on here, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Appreciate you coming on, man. And why don't you tell everybody how to find you? I actually pulled up your thing here one last time. I was gonna ask you about this one last picture, but if you don't.
Yes, that's today. So I've been doing some R&D with that fertilizer that was developed by NASA Agritech. And one of the things that I keep seeing is the biology is just taking off, even in a system like this, which is rockwool, which is pretty incredible. I've never seen mushrooms growing out of rockwool before. So I'm seeing some pretty amazing things with this new product that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, I was totally blown away by that. I just wanted to give you some credit and show that off because I just thought that was too badass, man. And then I also wanted to just mention here's how you find more about Brendan if you want to check out his website. And then how else can people find you, man? And then
Yeah,
also you're
just
speaking tomorrow as well at the Impervious Conference. Here's the link to the website, imperviousexpo.com, if you want more info to go see him tomorrow. I believe you're speaking at noon.
115, yeah, target nutritional levels for cannabis and then maintaining sufficiency and balance in these living soil systems. I'm going to be talking about that. I have a booth. Let's see, booth number 425, Bokashi Earthworks. And then you can, if you guys aren't familiar, the listeners, they can find me on Instagram at rust.brandon, BRANDON. And there's a link in my bio for Bokashi Earthworks, my website, and for Black Label Organics, which is the farm. And you can
Awesome.
always buy swag if you don't need nutrient.
Dude, who doesn't want awesome socks? Like that is the thing that we need more of. Like,
Dude, it was just kind of a novelty thing. I mean, they're expensive to have made, so I didn't really expect people to buy them, but it's cool. They're on there.
Sweet, man.
It's like one of those things that you might get for a Christmas gift or something.
But now you got a whole bunch of your own socks to wear, which is the best part of doing this stuff.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? So these t-shirts that that I have, I actually almost exclusively wear this because the material that it's made out of is so nice and like it feels like so good. It's really lightweight. They're excellent. Those are really nice shirts. I really like them a lot.
Awesome.
And I'll be doing another drop in about 4 weeks.
Sweet.
Seed drop. They always sell out.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'll talk to you guys soon.
So, dude,
Later.
And, I also have I pulled up Josh's website just in case anyone wants more info on that. Let me pull it up here. There we go. So this is I'll let Josh talk about it.
you know, one thing I didn't talk about that's pretty cool, you know, with all the travel and everything being more expensive, I had to bump up the ticket cost for this round. And so I was trying to come up with ways to build in value. And one idea that I had was, what if we could offer seeds with every ticket purchase? And I'm trying to work out the NFT kind of concept on it. But I had some cool seeds gifted to me from Kevin Jodry. They were root beer cross ChemDog Special Reserve. The seeds were made by Mean Gene from Mendocino. It was the same. The ChemDog Special Reserve is the same male that was used in the Black Lime Reserve cross, and the ChemDog, her sister, won an Emerald Cup. It's, you know, a really strong Star Dog line essentially, and then obviously with Jackson's root beer, which is a Affy mix up with headband and a couple other things. And so anyways, I was gifted these seeds and ran them this year. And it's been, like I was saying earlier, it's been a really, really wet and early year, and a lot of stuff failed. And this was one of the things that made it through, and it made it through really well. In fact, I just pulled it down like a week or two ago. So with the purchase of every ticket, I'm going to include the F2 on this, a pack of F2 seeds, which is pretty fucking epic. If you realize that the root beer wasn't released until even this time, you know, last year, folks have been waiting on it. And this is, when you get to F2, it's a pretty fucking direct, you know, light, you know, you're looking right into the grandparents. So you're going to see the Star Dog, you're going to see the root beer, you're going to see the headband in there, you're going to see a bunch of fucking cool stuff in these F2s. So truth be told, I honestly think that the cost of the ticket is worth the seeds alone. You know, if you didn't even come to the conference and just got the seeds, it would be worth it. Like for $450. It's yeah, they're pretty cool deal. And so the other thing I'm going to offer is that's out of something that I remade with seeds from my friends. But I have a breeding company called House of Selections with my friend Nick Risden. He's Lime Rising Nick on Instagram. And to the first 50 people from each location that buy tickets, we're going to throw in a pack of our House of Selection seeds. We haven't decided which pack it'll be yet, but yeah. So I'm just trying to build some value into it, and with the root beer. Sorry to kind of go back to the root beer Chem Dog Special Reserve. I'm calling it the Soto lines, kind of a play on soda. You know, the root beer soda pop, because the root beer is really a cola soda pop flavor, sarsaparilla, anise type flavor. And then I made the selection up here in Washington, where I used to live, was in Soto, or south of downtown Seattle. That's where the Mariners play. You know, you might see, if you've ever seen the Mariners jerseys, they'll say Soto. It's where the stadium is, south of downtown in Seattle. And so I just kind of was making that play on it, that I made the selection up here in our hard, obvious, wet weather patterns. And so we're going to do a breeding project out of it with everybody that comes to the conference. I expect about 200 people, 250 people to each location. And so each person's going to get a pack of these seeds. And so that'll be about 800 to 1,000 people that get these seeds. And we're going to do by region breeding project. And we're going to direct everybody to a Discord where they can upload testing pictures, and we can do some polls. And as a group, we can select which are the cuts, the phenotypes that we want to work forward with as a group, and then we can breed those out. And then here's where the NFT portion comes in, is that it's going to take me some time to mint this thing and make it happen, because it actually costs a lot of money to set up a proper NFTs, from what I've learned, with proper smart contracts. But I'll get it on the back end. And what can happen is, once we make our selections and we put that into the market, all that money that is generated from the sale of those genetics can go directly back to the purchasers of the seeds, or the purchasers of the tickets. So it could be really you could end up making more money on the purchase of this ticket than you spent. For instance, if we have a pick, you know, in the Western hemisphere, out of the Humboldt conference, we have 200 people, and we make a pick and we sell 1,000 packs at $200. What's the math on that? $200,000 back into 200 people is like $1,000 a person, right? Boom, you just doubled your money. And that's honestly a real thing that could happen with this. In my mind, I got to build the technology and do that proper. But in reality, like a group breeding project like that, I think is really worth a $200 pack of seeds done well, you know? So yeah, that's what I'm working on the back end of this, to really build something cool and fun that we can all do together. And if it's not worth anything, then it's not worth anything, you know. And it was a cool ass thing we all got to participate in, you know. It's really, I'm just trying to build some value into this conference, which is an educational thing, you know.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely interesting. A lot of people have talked about NFTs and stuff like that, so I think it'll be an interesting way to blend them all together. And then also a super cool way for people to, you know, come out and get their seeds and you know, kind of add extra value excuse me, add extra value to the people that supported early on. So, awesome. And then anything else you wanted to mention? If not, I think we're going to start to wrap it up.
No, I think I don't know. I think I got it.
How do people find out? How do people find out about your conference here? I have the website up. I'll throw it back up here on the screen. And how else do they find out about your microbes and your other stuff that you got going now? So the
Yes, you
same
go
website?
to regenerativeorganiccannabis.com. We'll get you to the tickets. Or you can go to regenerativeseeds.com. We'll get you to my seed bank that also has the gardening tools link in there that you can link to and check out all the microbes. And we'll be adding more stuff to that department and adding more breeders as we get going. So yeah, thanks again for letting me come on and kind of talk about all this. It's really important to me, and I think really important for our community to do these conferences and to have these because like just to say to you, Steve, like a thank you to you for you putting on this conference this weekend, and I got to participate also in a conference a couple weekends ago with you, the Aquaponics Association conference, and it's like fucking really beautiful. But even though we get to bring all these cool speakers and do all this like the biggest part of it to me is really the connection with the people. When we get together and share bowls and break bread and share weed and share genetics, like it is like.
It's different.
Really it's different. It's really, really cool. And like I've literally started my breeding company off the shared seeds from these conferences. I just can't say enough about it. It's been a very cool experience in my life,
I definitely think that it's certainly the thing that I always tell people is, look, you're going to learn more at Josh's conference in 1 weekend than you have at a couple of years worth of normal industry expos where they have tons of booths and a couple of speakers to get people in the door, which you see a lot of the other expos being. This one really is just what's cool about the Regenerative conference is everyone there has been growing a long time and has a really good understanding of all different levels of cultivation. So you can have really intelligent conversations or ask really intelligent questions or really, in-depth questions or questions that like are normally way above the normal kind of access that you'd have in terms of educated speakers that can answer some of these highly complex questions. And it really is the place to come together that, I don't know, it's almost like a club or something in a different kind of way.
It's been really cool. Callahan is asking on IG about the Roberts Creek Congo. He said Stevens Creek, but it's Roberts Creek Congo. We'll probably have some more of those floating around, sir. Probably not in Humboldt, but we'll make some stuff available as best we can.
We did have a question about, I believe it was like ocean salts or ocean nutrients. One person is carbon-based fertilizer. Oh no, that was earlier. Hold on 1 second. There was one question I want to answer before we totally wrap up the show. Where is it here? I promised him I would answer it, and I'm going to try. Hold on, there's been a lot of chat. We'll find it together.
It was from Indica Dogo. It says, so this is a carbon-based fertilizer. How's it made? High heat and what?
No.
Not that one?
Different. Together we grow. Asks Sky, can you tell me anything about sea minerals and cannabis aquaponic growing? Is it beneficial? I know Josh and I both use it, which is why I wanted to mention it real quick. You have to not use too much of it. You can definitely cause issues if you totally go crazy with it, but in
1%.
smaller amounts and when used as directed, it is very good.
Yeah, 1% for foliar, or if you're using soil, 1% seawater to regular water. And you can make that, with salt water if you don't have access to seawater, or if your seawater is not good seawater, like if you live in San Francisco or outside of any big city, let's say. I'm just saying where there's a lot of pollutants and you're not getting a good tide in and out, I probably wouldn't fuck with that shit. I'd look for a cleaner mineral source. Being like, and then there's a product that I really like called C90 that's pre-Fukushima salt, and it's really nice. And it's not that expensive, and a little bit goes a long way. I think I use I don't remember. It's like a pint, a pint glass to a 50-gallon spray rig.
Well, I wanted to mention real quick here at the end. We have this weekend the second annual virtual Aquaponic Cannabis Conference. I'll be speaking, kicking things off in the morning. I think we're going to play the trailer here at maybe an hour early that we recorded the other day. That kind of gives a little bit of a short intro about all the different speakers. And then we have Sweetwater Aquaponics is going to be speaking to us live from South Africa. Symbiosid will be coming to us from Switzerland. Quilitas is coming to us from Canada. Dragonfly Earth Medicine will also be coming to us from Canada. They're super awesome. Humboldt Genetics will be coming to us from Michigan. We have Lorenzo Frisella talking to us about living soil versus aquaponic yield production. He did a lot of side-by-sides with a couple of different crops. And he's going to be breaking down the science of living soil versus aquaponics. I think you guys are, regardless of how you feel or how you grow, are going to really learn a lot from his talk. It's very cool. We have Caleb from Copyleft Cultivars going to be talking to us about copyleft and how that can apply to protecting breeders' rights as far as seeds and genetics. We have Chris Trump going to be talking to us about KNF. We have the commercial cultivation panel with moderator Heavy Days of the podcast coming to us from Australia. We have Dr. Wilson Leonard from Australia after that. And then we have Dylan McGammon from Saskatchewan, a really awesome Canadian aquaponic cannabis grower. If you're familiar with the Facebook group, you've seen his pictures. Then we have Wendy Kornberg talking to us about all different types of living soil methods. And then we have Matthew Gates talking to us about pest management. And on Sunday, we're going to kick the day off with Breeder Steve, the first person to write about aquaponic cannabis. Then we're going to transition into Angela Tenenbrock at 9 a.m. Then Victor Labanov coming to us from Sweden. He's going to be talking to us about microbes and aquaponics. And then we're going to talk about Joe Pate. He's going to be giving us an awesome talk about minerals and nutrients. Then we have Tanner Stewart talking to us about commercial aquaponic cannabis farming up in Canada. Then we have Josh Rutherford talking to us from Dutch Blooms, talking to us about his wonderful living soil aquaponic farm that he has. If you guys haven't seen it before, it really is probably the coolest living soil aquaponic hybrid farm anywhere in North America that I've seen. Then Kevin McKernan, awesome geneticist, is going to be talking to us about a really awesome presentation on cannabis. And then we're going to talk to Rob Nash from Austin Aquaponics. He's been doing 3 years of aquaponic hemp down in Texas. Clackamas Coot talking to us about soil stuff. We got Dr. Robert Faust talking to us about humic and fulvic acids. Murray Holland from Australia. A lot of people got their start with aquaponics through Murray Holland. Then we have the homegrown panel with moderator Scotty Reel, the Do Grow Show. So that'll be awesome at 7 o'clock. We have Jordan River, the Growcast, going to be a moderator for the Craft Grown panel. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then Marty Waddell is going to wrap it up. And then we're going to have a big giveaway at the end. We're going to have a full round of nutrients for up to 300-gallon system. We got an SK403 from Spectrum King, brand new. And we have a full class from the Aquaponic Cannabis Masterclass that'll be given out at the end. And we have some other giveaways that we're going to sprinkle in during the conference, but the grand giveaway at the end of Sunday night. And if you want to sign up, you can head over to ap420.com and just sign up with your email, and it's totally for free. You don't have to do anything. It just basically allows us to email you if we do any other aquaponic cannabis events in the future. So you can find out about them, and to do that, and then we'll enter you in to win the grand prize on Sunday. So definitely check that out. We're hoping to kind of give people the ability to get up and running. So how do people find you there, Marty? Not Marty, Fumi. Sorry.
What else is going on, man? You know what? The other day we were playing game night and it was fun. And it was just genuinely, honestly, stupidly fun.
Fuck yeah.
Right? Sometimes we forget
yeah.
that you just like get together with your
Josh.
girlfriends and you just like play stupid shit, win no idiot prizes.
Josh needs to come back.
Everyone's
to
already
games. It was a
home.
lot of fun when he came
So
the other time.
I'm
He's
down
muted.
for another game night. I'm ready. I'm ready. You know,
Bring it.
I was the biggest loser the game night that I showed up.
That was admittedly a pretty hard trivia session. I have to be honest. Wes Engine slammed the table with everybody, but a few people went home crying. Clackamas Coot, famously, you, Potent Ponics, I think, might have been the biggest loser once or twice as well. It was a little bit savage.
Oh,
yeah, I
yes.
have to be honest.
Bringing up the
right. But hey, even that, like sometimes you just, man, I don't even know. My ego covers my growing or something. I don't know, something, or maybe just don't use the ego.
How do people find out more about you and your shows?
Just like it says on the table here, look up, we do podcasts and all the shenanigans that we do. Actually, people have been listening to us from Turkey. Can you believe that? Turkey and freaking Romania and all these cool places. Anyway, you guys could listen to us, Chronic Table, over on iTunes, Spotify, whatever. Or I have a YouTube channel, just like Potent does here, and we like to goof off over there, pleasant, fun way, sort of an educated way, over at Fumidor and the Flavors is my YouTube channel. So guys, come check it out.
There's a link to his YouTube and his social media here in the description as well. Same for Josh's stuff.
Cheers. And welcome, folks.
And Brendan's stuff. And Josh, what about you? One last time, how do people find you?
For the conferences, Regenerative Organic Cannabis.com. On social, I'm Dutch_Blooms. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me, and where I post the most and do the most content is there. I also have a YouTube space. So if you're curious, it's actually a good space. If you're curious about the conferences, you can go check out Regenerative Cannabis. That's my YouTube thing. And I have videos from the last few conferences up there. So that's a good place to check out. And I also have the seed site where we were talking about the microbes and inoculants that we have, and that's regenerativeseeds.com. So yeah, thank you. For someone to ask real quick, no, the first 50 tickets are not sold from each event. So hop on that and get the extra pack of seeds. Thank you, guys.
Hell yeah. And I'll be there bringing a bunch of seeds with me for you guys. Definitely hit me up on the seed swap day. All right. You guys can find me on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, all the things. I will be over on Eagle Gardens after this show. So definitely check me out there. And we will see you guys on Sunday morning, bright and early.